Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking about the stages that I think are the best to farm, the reasons why to farm them, and the pros and cons of each. Let's get into it. So the first stage I want to talk about is Great Goblins of Fire, and the reason why this stage is so important is because ultimately, before you're at a point where you can start farming out a lot of the Maniac stages or you can start doing Slimpede, you're kind of limited in how you get Fortitude Crystals, and the thing is that if you end up clearing Great Goblins of Fire, not only do you have access to the assist mode should you decide to run that way, but also the stage itself is not very difficult by any means. So if you choose to, or if you want to get Fortitude Crystals early on to level up your weapons to, again, level 125, 150, this is the best place to do it just because of how many crystals or how many shards you get in general. So again, long story short, since you are, again, able to, at worst, use it on full assist if you end up dying, or at best, just kind of speed through it and clear through it by yourself, it's a lot of resources, or it's a lot of Fortitude Crystals rather. You need it to upgrade your weapons early, and you need that to, again, go through Maniac or be able to get through Proud. You should be doing the stage, especially early on. Okay, so the next stage that I want to talk about is Shedding Light on the Pillar, and the reason why this is also a really good stage is because while Great Goblins of Fire is definitely good for early farming for large Fortitude shards, should you desire to just go AFK or not really pay attention, what you can actually do is just sit here and you also still get Fortitude shards for your weapon, but this time you're allowed to AFK, and you know, if early on or at some point you realize that you don't have as much time to spend on the game, this is the stage to AFK on. Now the main takeaway or caveat to this is that again, you have to wait here for 4 minutes, which is kind of annoying, but it is again an AFK strat. But you can see here, I've got 3 Fortitude Crystals, 8 Fortitude Crystals, and at the same time, I got 64 Fortitude Crystal mediums for a total of 8 Fortitude Crystals and 64 mediums, all while being AFK. This is a very good method of AFKing, especially if you don't want to be farming Fortitude Crystals any other way. But in all honesty, in terms of pure raw Fortitude Crystal value, there is nothing that's going to beat Shedding Light on the Pillar in terms of how easy it is and in terms of how many crystals you get. It does also give you access to curios, which is also a huge benefit, among all the other resources here that, again, you can trade in for silver centrums, etc., etc. Now, technically speaking, even in the late game, this is a very viable option for clearing or in terms of being able to get Fortitude Crystals. There are a couple stages that I'm going to mention later that actually end up giving you something like 17 Fortitude Larges, which debatably, and depending on how fast you kill things, it may be better to get the 17 larges as opposed to even like the 60 mediums, but that kind of depends on your speed and kind of what you're running in terms of either full assist mode or not full assist mode, how strong your AI is, etc., etc. Okay, now for Slimpede, a lot of you guys already know why this stage is so good. Not only do you have access to the EXP farm, which is dropping the spell books, ultimately you also have access to Fortitudes, so this is kind of your all-in-one farm for everything you need to get. You also have the chance for Prismatic or Rainbow Slipes to drop, and when those mobs spawn, if you do end up killing them, what you have access to is 5 Azurite Splendors, 3 Damascus Ingots, and either Mastery Points or the 50 large Fortitude Crystals. It kind of depends on what ends up dropping, and it is kind of RNG. Long story short, it gives you Azurites, it gives you Fortitude, it gives you Spellbooks, it gives you Damascus Ingots, which again let you bypass certain upgrades. The Azurite Splendor lets you upgrade sigils to plus 15. Between all these different resources and the Mastery Points and the Fortitude Shards that you can get as drops from either Damascus Ingots or just from the stage clear itself, this stage is really, really insane, and for most people, it is the end game EXP or building a character kind of farming stage. This is also kind of your sign that you've kind of hit the end game in terms of farming. Okay, so just for a special shout out, I do want to talk about 2 stages that I do end up AFKing quite a bit, just in case I'm kind of unlucky when it comes to farming Slimpede. And that's Hope in the Machine and Know Your Enemy. So the thing about Hope in the Machine is that ultimately, if you're trying to farm out the Tayu Itar head, this is a great opportunity for you to kind of just sit here AFK, and Tayu Itar heads are actually what you need for one of the stages of upgrading a sigil. And since a lot of sigils you do want, especially early on, to be 15, just so you can kind of get to the point where you can have an impact in either Maniac or Proud, you are going to have to spend some time farming here, and if you are able to AFK, or if you do end up deciding farming here, this is a great location that not only kind of gives you materials that you can get for silver centrums, it is one of the stages that is not too hard to AFK while also giving you the Tayu Itar heads. Important note though, if you end up farming this stage, you don't actually have that much control over what your AI do in terms of being able to break open the legs and then be able to hit the head for the Tayu Itar helmet. But long story short, since there is kind of an RNG chance just by killing the enemy for you to get the Tayu Itar head, I think it is worth noting, and again, you do get a number of resources anyways. So it was a sub 1 minute run, and of course, if you just take a look at the drops that we had, You can sell the vermilion powder, you can sell the fondem sulfur. Ultimately, more than anything else, if you have access to the Tayo Itar head, you need that again to upgrade some of the sigils. So regardless if you want to or if you don't want to, if you aren't willing to farm out Slimpede, that one again is a little bit more active, and depending on what you do for your setup or your controller setup, maybe it's easier for you to farm, maybe it's not. But ultimately, if you don't want to, or if you want to bypass trying to farm out a prismatic slime, this is a stage that you're going to have to farm out. And again, it kind of gives you refail coins, it kind of gives you some things that are sellable either for knickknack vouchers or for silver centrums. Worth it. Side note, another stage that is pretty worth farming out, and again, it doesn't require too much investment in terms of your AI or really needing to invest in really good characters, is the Tayo Itar Mark II, aka defeating the second Tayo Itar, but this time it doesn't give you the helmet. The reason why you want to fight this stage specifically is because you get swivel cannons, among some of the other resources like I mentioned with the curios or the silver centrums. Okay, so again, there are a couple of resources that you actually need here. Curios are fine, refill coins are fine. Getting these Tempest Stones and the prisms are fine, again, if you want to sell them or if you want to trade them in for certain things. But the thing that you actually need are the extension bracers alongside sometimes the rainbow prism. I haven't gotten a swivel cannon from here. I'm not sure if I'm capped out or something. But in addition to all the things that I just mentioned, you actually gain access to fortitude crystals as well. Again, but if you are going to be upgrading your sigils or doing anything like that, you are going to need some of these resources. So, and just keep that in mind so that if you do end up wanting to farm these stages, you do have actually some value to it. You're not just kind of sitting there and getting no resources and kind of just forced to farm stuff like the swivel cannon. That being said, though, it's not like you really have choices anyways, because if you want to get the swivel cannon or if you want to get the extension bracers, there's literally only one stage that you can get it from. So of course, naturally that's the stage that you're going to have to farm, and so therefore in terms of being good or bad or having pros or cons, it doesn't matter because you're going to have to farm it anyways. Okay, so the next stage, you guys have probably seen me rave about this one plenty of times. It's I See a Grim Vision, and ultimately ever since I saw the Nenkai GitHub kind of drop rates for this stage and for what rate at which you can collect curios, specifically tier 4 curios for sub 5 plus, glass cannon plus, flight over fight plus, I've kind of realized that this is pretty much one of the GOAT stages alongside the Scarmiglion equivalent, which is throw a smith a bone. Both of these stages get cleared pretty quickly, and it kind of just depends on what you want. And something that I don't think I kind of realized early on was that while I was farming I See a Grim Vision a lot just because of how easy it was, if you do end up getting the War Seared axes from this stage and you get the other axe equivalent from the Scarmiglion stage, you can just trade those in for silver centrums, which is huge value. Again, it's a 21-second run that kind of goes down. You get the curios here, which is huge value, and again, I've even got a silver centrum here, so I'm probably never ever going to actually need to farm out silver centrums or trade them in, assuming that I even decide to do that. But long story short, the reason why this is so important, again, is if you're deciding to farm either silver centrums or if you want to farm out curios, they're a huge value, you clear it so quickly, and compared to doing a proud stage, this is just 10 times faster. Do not do one of the proud stages if you're just, again, trying to farm out a maniac stage. Again, to be clear, you should be doing this based off of the Nenkai drop rates, because again, it says that you can receive a tier 4 curio at a 2.4% chance. Again, you should just be doing these maniac stages specifically because you clear them so fast, and you still have only a 0.6% chance difference to get a tier 4 curio from these maniac stages as opposed to the others. Roost and Rain is actually the premier large fortitude shard farm, and you'll see why in a second when I show you the run and how fast it is, why it's so good. But this is the go-to if you want to upgrade your weapons, and again, for most weapons you need hundreds of large fortitude shards to upgrade them, so why not do it more efficiently by beating up all the griffins? Of course, it does kind of suck if you're, again, using a team that doesn't have range, but at this point, if you aren't upgrading someone like, again, an Io or maybe an Eugen to do your bidding or to do DPS, that's kind of on you. This is kind of the AFK, everything that you want to be doing or farming out while you have a team that complements you. So either play a character that has range accessibility, or just, you know, again, have these Eugens, have these Rakams, and just see how much better your life is once you actually have access to ranged AI, because I guarantee you the runs are going to be much better than you think. Okay, now if we talk about drops, let's take a look at, again, the 1 minute and 50 roost run. Again, if you just calculate these together, this is 14, 20, 23, 28. This was 28 fortitude crystals. This is a lot for a 2-minute run. And again, I get that it's a little bit slower. It is like 2 minutes you have to be active and run through, but compared to the previous Goblins of Fire stage, it's completely and much better for you to do Rooster Rain or Roost in Rain, as opposed to any of the other like old extreme missions. There is another Maniac stage if you want to fight the Narbanju flying monsters instead. They're essentially the exact same though, with a little bit, I would say, a little bit less travel time with Roost in Rain, which is why I like it so much. But pretty much any multi-boss stage that you have to fight will give you a decent chunk of large fortitude shards. This is what I prefer though, and that's what I love about Roost in Rain. Now, I've already been talking about silver centrums and farms and why it's so good and all that, but if you actually do want to dedicate all of your time specifically to just getting silver centrums, look no further than I See a Chromatic Vision, because this stage drops all the materials that you would need to farm out an entire silver centrum all at the same time. It varies, of course, with speed, and you don't actually get enough to trade 1-for-1 for a silver centrum per exact run. But again, if you are willing to AFK, or if you're willing to just sit here and trade silver centrums slowly but surely, but again, not have to pray for RNG or have to split your time between 2 instances, this is what you would do. Okay, so with a 2-minute and 5-second run, not only did we get a couple of fortitude shards, we did end up getting a decent amount of flame beast horns in addition to land beast horns and the frost beast horns. Now again, the amount that drops here does appear to vary, because again, we have 4 here and there's 2 and 2 here. But you can trade in these specifically for, again, a silver centrum. And assuming you don't want to farm out a silver centrum through some other means, like just randomly getting it from Maniac, this is a stage that I've heard a lot of people comment about or find very helpful. You, of course, also have access to the referral coins, some vouchers, and the curios, should that interest you. But long story short, if you're trying to get a silver centrum kind of quickly, this is a very nice stage to do it. Okay, now for the final hurdle, if you decide that you want to farm Proud for whatever reason, whether that be for a guaranteed curio, or if you decide to run it for something like the crit rate 5+ reward, or, you know, crit rate 5+ or combo booster as a sigil, that's a potential drop. Here's what you need to know. First and foremost, the chances of getting a curio here are much higher, or tier 4 curio are much higher, and in addition, you do get a decent amount of fortitude shards alongside the chance for decent right stones and a silver centrum. Now ultimately, again, you could choose to farm either this one or trade barriers. The trade barrier stage gives you stun 5+, whereas again, Scarmiglione in this case actually gives you a critical hit rate 5+. Most people I know are trying to find a crit rate 5+ alongside a damage cap, so that's where this stage, or farming the stage, kind of comes in handy. But ultimately, if you are someone that just likes rolling, maybe you don't have to worry about it. It's kind of a min-max thing, and again, I'm not really going to get in trouble here anyways, so I'm just going to sit here, relax, let's see what happens. Okay, so this was a 2-minute and 58-second run for worst vacation ever. The trade barrier stage is kind of a similar clear time, but as you can see, we've got 17 fortitude crystal larges. I've got the chance for a critical rate 5+. I didn't actually end up getting it this time. We've got Chilling Demon Eyes that, again, you can, either sell or you could trade that in for silver centrums. Other than that, though, most of these resources that you have here are kind of expendable. What you're really looking for is the fortitude crystals alongside the critical hit rate 5+, alongside the curios. Okay, now the final stage that I'm going to talk about, just because it's either significant in terms of how you upgrade things, or it's significant in terms of what's dropped, is the melting point of hostility. And the reason why it's so important, specifically because this stage, unlike Proto, which takes a little bit more effort, especially if you're running AI, is actually completable with AI, and you get damage cap plus in addition to tyranny cap plus. 17-minute run. Do not believe we got the thing that we set out to get, which is okay, but again, you get like a decent amount of large crystals. It's 17. It's pretty quick relative to the other stages, and just in general, this stage is really good. Again, if you want to get access to damage cap or the tyranny 5s, as you can see here, all I have right now is tyranny 5, but there is a chance for you to get tyranny 5+, and this is definitely going to be easier, especially early on compared to Proto Bahamut, but we'll talk about him in a sec. Okay, now if you really want my opinion, clearing the Tail of Bahamut's Rage isn't really a negotiable. You do need to farm this out, again, number one, to get your weapon, or because you're going to need some of the things to awaken your weapon. So ultimately, even if I were to tell you to not farm this out, it would just be a lie. Okay, but again, at the end of it all, guys, I do want to make a PSA. These are just the stages that I ended up using and the pros and cons of each of them. If you liked them or if you enjoyed them, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section below, letting me know what you think about the stages or the selections or the reasoning that I have. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video though, guys. I appreciate everyone that's been leaving the kind comments, the people that have given me real comments as well. I appreciate it as well. Please know that when I've been like, and this is something that people have talked about, I have definitely had to moderate a few comments or stuff because some people are just getting a little bit too aggressive or like a little bit too disrespectful. And I don't mean that in like the, oh my gosh, Connor, you stink or you smell. Like, a lot of them are pretty derogatory, which is why I have had to remove a couple of them. I apologize about that. It just doesn't really look to keep them up permanently. But in any case, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. If you did, make sure to like, comment, turn the notification bell, subscribe. Let me know what you think about all the things that I included in here. Thanks so much, guys. If you want to see more of this content, you can find me on Twitch and YouTube. Thank you so much, though, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Adios.